The wind scraped like a metal file when Rafaela saw the bundle stuck among the chollas. An outrageously expensive hat, trampled by horses, and a man tugging at the air with the ragged wheeze of a broken bellows. Her children froze where they stood, and she did not hesitate. She climbed down from the wagon, wrapped her hands in her rebozo to push the spines aside, and said without raising her voice, "Nicolas, bring water. Rosa, look for the sack of flour, because flour would stop the blood if heaven so willed it." The stranger opened one gray eye, the color of tired metal, tried to reach his holster and barely murmured, "Don't hand me over." The rest was coughing and a thin froth. Rafaela gauged the angle of the wound, slanting under his ribs, and smelled old gunpowder, not from that day. He had a cowboy's scars and a shirt of the finest linen, mother-of-pearl buttons, embroidered boots without a trace of mud that spoke of more ranch house than trail. The wagon groaned when they heaved him up. The man let out a moan she cut off with a dry phrase, "Breathe slowly, sir," and she shoved a strip of leather between his teeth before cauterizing the wound with a knife heated over the little lamp. Rosa turned her eyes away. Nicolas held the stranger's leg with his jaw clenched. The smell of burnt flesh mixed with the orange blossom from the patio when they reached the shack. Rafaela stitched with steady hands, trained in wars that never had official names, and only then did she notice the seal engraved on his belt buckle, a hawk gripping a key. As she felt along his side, she found a flat book hidden in his sash. She shoved it under the mat without opening it. The man slept with his jaw tight. His chest rose as if he were pushing boulders. "Mama, what if they come looking for him?" Nicolas wouldn't leave the window. "Then they'll find us working," she said. She lit the brazier, put coffee on, took her father's old compass from the drawer, looked at it out of habit, and put it away again. Outside, the desert darkened early. In the distance, hooves cut through dust like scissors. "Blow out the lamp," she whispered. The shack fell into shadow. The man on the pallet snapped his eyes open, smelled other people's fear, and said very softly, "Halcon, no, Baron." And then one clearer word, "I." Rafaela bent down close to his face. "What I?" He tried to point, his arm caught, and only got out, "Water." He drank 3 swallows and sank down again. The hooves passed and came back. Knuckles rapped on the door with leisure. "Mrs. Duarte, good evening," came the oiled voice of Judge Caleb Barron, owner of the valley and half the sky. "What can I do for you, sir? Night doesn't sell anything here. We're looking for a thief who wounded me in my honor and in my purse." A silence, the creak of gloves. "I haven't seen any men of your kind around here." "Of my kind?" A short laugh. "Open up, madam. The common good doesn't wait. My common good is my children sleeping," she answered. A murmur of men and a click of tongue. Barron's gunman, Clay Maddox, stationed to his left by habit of executioner, said, "If we don't open it, the door will on its own." "Open it, mama," Nicolas whispered, "or they'll smash it in." "No," Rafaela said, and that no dragged iron. She lifted the loose stone in the floor, pulled out the hidden book. It felt heavier than paper. 10 seconds, Maddox counted. "Señor Baron," she said, her hand flat on the wood. "Whoever touches my door, touches Father Esteban." "The little priest?" someone laughed. "He's 2 leagues away." "But his bell rings wherever I want it to," she answered. From the darkness of the pallet, a worn voice came. "Rafaela, don't let them in." And the sound of her name drove into her back, like he already knew her. "You call a man judge who can't tell a home from a corral?" she added, taut. "I can. Open," Clay ordered, bored. The first shove splintered the frame. The second was about to bring it down when a bell peal shattered the night. The bell of the little oratory she herself had hung from a mesquite the summer before to scare off cougars. The horses shied. The men swore. "Nobody touches the widow here," another voice shouted from the dark, young, in broken Spanish. Nanton, an Apache boy who carried messages for everyone and favors for those who deserve them. "The town hears," he added. Barron weighed his convenience. "Tomorrow," he promised, I'll bring the law. Bring water, Rafaela shot back, bold only because she was shaking. They listened to them leave. She held her breath until silence went back to being silence. She lit the lamp again. The wounded man looked at her with fever and rough gratitude. "My name's Silas Reed," he said in the soft Spanish learned by getting knocked around. "There's a price on my head." "I noticed," she answered. "That book." His eyes searched for the mat. "If you open it, sell it after you bury me." "I'm not burying anyone today." "I'm not a good man," he muttered, "but I want to do one clean thing before." His eyes closed with effort. His frown eased. Rafaela waited until sleep clamped down on him. He opened the book. It wasn't a book at all. It was a payment ledger. Pages edged in lead, neat handwriting, transfers to foreman, to a certain J. Morrow, to office of Judge C.B., round figures, tucked between the leaves, a tiny map, little more than a few lines, a drawn eye, a number, 731. In the corner, a pressed petal of Yerba Santa. She remembered her father's voice singing marching chants as he carried her on his shoulders between boundary markers and stakes. 7 at dawn, 3 to the south, 1 to the river. Her father had been a surveyor before the world took their land away with papers. In the margin, a note, Ojo de Ceniza. She closed the ledger, hid it in the clay of the hearth, and slept with one eye open. She woke to the smell of stale coffee and sweat-soaked leather. Silas was breathing more evenly. "Why did you help me?" he asked without swagger, like a boy who has misplaced his usual tone. "Because my children don't bury strangers in their yard," she said. "They want me dead." "Your friend the judge already told me," she replied. He let a tiny smile slip that the pain cut short. "Baron is no friend," he said. He looked around and saw the worn compass on the table. "That compass belonged to Duarte. It belonged to my father. I worked with him one season." Rafaela felt a hard blow in the pit of her stomach and hid it behind a trivial gesture, smoothing the sheet. "My father set markers nobody respected. They'll respect them," he said. "Too late. Not if you believe me when I say Ojo de Ceniza." The name ran over her palms like water. "What do you know about that eye?" "That it lies under your land, and that the river Baron wants to tame is born down there," he said. "My well gives mud and lizards, because they buried the eye." "Who?" "I did." He said it without moving. Only his eyes admitted guilt. She clenched her jaw. "Then, Mr. Reed, you owe me a debt older than that wound." "That's why I came," he said, his voice fraying like worn rope. "I tried to open it and they stopped me. They shot me in the dark. I want to transfer you the water rights." "To me? To your children? To buy my forgiveness?" "To pay," he said. "And Baron? He has the court, he has Clay, he has fear." "Afraid of what?" "Someone putting the marker where it belongs." Silas lifted his hand with effort and let it drop. 7 at dawn, 3 to the south, 1 to the river, he whispered. The song of her father in another man's mouth raised the hair on her neck. "How do you know that?" "Duarte sang it to me drunk at the campfire, laughing at men with maps who don't know how to look at the stars." "My father didn't laugh drunk," she said. "You're right," he conceded immediately, and that gesture stripped him of arrogance. He laughed sadly. He said if anything happened to him, his girl would know how to line up the shepherd star with the black hill. Rafaela saw the silhouette of the hill behind the house, the fin of stone cutting the sky. Nicolas came in with a wooden bowl. "Mama, there are men by the creek." "How many?" "4. They don't look like deer." "They've seen us," said Silas. "They'll see us leaving," Rafaela answered. She wrapped their world in a blanket, hoisted Rosa with one gesture, left the door open as bait. "Let's go." "I can't ride," he protested, measuring his limits. "Then my wheels will carry you." They hitched the draft horse to the wagon, loaded Silas among sacks of corn and a greatcoat, and took the path that was not a path, skirting prickly pears, cutting north where the land broke into low hills that swallowed the sound of hooves. The men at the creek saw them or smelled their dust. Clay Maddox touched the brim of his hat with his gun barrel. Black stripe and a poor wagon, he said. Easy. Don't shoot the wagon, Baron ordered. First, I want his signature. Rafaela didn't hear them, but she felt their intent, the way you feel lightning before the thunder. Mama, said Nicolas, Nantan is following us at a distance. Let him, she replied. You trust him? I trust his pride. The day rose into a heat that split lips. Silas shivered under the blanket. If you plan to reach the eye with a corpse in tow, you're only going to manage a burial, he said with half a smile. Leave me. No, she answered. Then give me the compass. You can't eat it, she said, but handed it over. You line it up with Venus at dawn, he murmured. She rises early today. We won't reach the next dawn if we don't take a shortcut. I know one, he assured her, tracing shapes in the air with his finger. 3 to the south, 1 to the river isn't direction. It's the shape of the land. 3 brows, 1 dry bed. My father called the ridges brows, she said. He was exact, Silas replied. A sharp shot blew out a rock near the wheel. Nicolas yanked on the reins. The wagon swerved and the wheel plunged into a hole. Mama! Cut the sacks, she ordered. But cut them. The corn spilled like rain. The pursuers' horses skidded when the ground turned alive. Get down, she barked. You, Rosa, under the mesquite. Silas, face down. A bullet came through the plank, whistling a handbreadth from his head. Rafaela slid to the side, braced the carbine on the axle, and watched Clay come forward as if he had no pulse. You're gonna hand him over, widow, he shouted, or I bleed your wagon dry. Come and get him, she answered. And when Clay leaned in, she didn't shoot the man, but the buckle of his cinch. The horse lost the saddle, and the gunman ate dust with a short curse. Silas laughed without air. That shot was the stuff of legends. I don't make legends, she snapped, and jumped off the wagon to heave the wheel out of the hole. Nicolas, now, the boy urged the horse on. The wheel screeched and climbed out by sheer stubbornness. Tattered shouts behind them. Nantan appeared on their flank and threw 2 stones at the other horses' heads. He didn't hurt them, just threw off their rhythm. Leave them in the dry wash, Rafaela told him. I know a bend that swallows men. By afternoon, they reached that bend. It was a narrow gully with rippled walls. The ground looked firm and wasn't. Nicolas, let the chickens loose. The chickens? They don't fly far, but they know ground, she said. The birds toddled ahead, pecking, and suddenly sank a handbreadth down. They squawked furiously. The dumbest of them stuck fast. There's rotten clay there, Rafaela said, in a voice meant for Silas's ears as much as anyone's, so he'd hear the sense behind the act. The pursuers wouldn't have chickens. Clay went in first, cursed the muck, tried to haul on the reins. The horse bogged down to its belly. Rafaela aimed at the sky and fired to make her own fall back. The report ricocheted off the walls and Clay lost his bearings for a second. Fall back, Baron growled, cold-eyed. We don't want them in there. They'll come out into the open in time for the finish. They'll tire first, Clay said, spitting grit. They followed the edge of the night all the way to an old ruined mission, where the adobe kept in cool air and flies. Rafaela laid Silas out on the fallen altar table. He gazed up at the broken roof with clumsy respect. If I die here, the priest has to forgive me, he muttered. Forgiveness doesn't do much if you don't fix what you've done, she replied. Your father? He asked. He died measuring lines when people still believed in them, she said. I believe too, Silas answered, and took a small iron key from his sash. This opens the gate of the eye. I thought the eye was buried, she said. The gate's buried with it. So you hid the water and locked it up, she said. Because they sold me fear, he answered. You paid dear, she said. Silas stared into the shadow. Tomorrow at dawn, take the Black Hill, line it with Venus. 7 big steps toward where the shadow of the forked mesquite breaks. 3 toward the stone brow, 1 to the dry bed. People don't believe in footsteps, she said. People believe in papers, he replied. I don't. That's why it has to be you, he said. The word struck her oddly, as if he were talking about some higher choice. I don't need to be picked, she said. Nobody's kicking you. He answered, things are pushing you. That water is pushing you. For what? So it can exist. You have the song and the compass. I have the guilt and the key. Baron has the court. Everyone brings their weight. A pebble fell somewhere. Rafaela blew out the lamp with quick fingers and slid her children behind a buttress. "Silence," she whispered. Two men slunk in like badly trained cats. Clay, gun low, another without a name. "I smell old liquor," Clay said. "Smells like mouse fear to me," the other snickered, hoping for praise. "There," he pointed at the patch where Rosa was breathing shallowly. From the darkness bloomed a brief glint, a tiny point of silver skittering along the wall, the compass mirror catching starlight and flicking a spark. Clay turned reflexively toward the gleam, and Rafaela came up from the floor with her knife. "Drop the gun." "I'll cut you," he said. "I'll bleed your eyes," she replied. "A widow?" the other scoffed. "A mother," she answered, and drove the blade into the second man's forearm just deep enough to make him drop his weapon. From the altar, Silas raised the carbine with a caged beast's effort. "Go home, Clay," he rasped, in a worn but still recognizable voice. "It's not worth dying cheap." "Everything they pay me for is worth it," Clay said, stepping back. "Tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Rafaela echoed, and the word sounded like a sentence. The night didn't heal anything, but it stretched time. At the edge of dawn, one stubborn star refused to go out. "Venus," Silas whispered. "Line it up." Rafaela set the compass on a flat stone, found the black hill, lifted her arm and lined it with the star. She counted 7 steps toward where the shadow of the split mesquite would fall, 3 toward the stony brow that looked like an old man's eyebrow, 1 toward the dry channel marked by a scar in the earth. She looked down, packed soil. She knelt, dug her nails in, scraped until she felt something that wasn't dirt, a coldness. She worked with her knife, hitting wood. "Here," she called Nicolas and Rosa. They dug with tin cans. A cedar lid with rusty hardware came to light. Rafaela wiped off the mud, found a small lock, and looked at Silas. He held out the key, visibly trembling. "Open it," he said. She pushed the key in and turned it. The metal fought, then yielded with a sound her memory recognized as a promise. They lifted the lid. A narrow shaft breathed up cool stone air. At the bottom, a dark mirror. "Water," Nicolas said with a laugh he hadn't allowed himself since he was small. "I," Rosa corrected, grave. Rafaela let one tear slip, silently. Silas watched as if the world were granting him a brief pardon. "That's not enough," he said then, voice salted. "Baron will say it's his and that I stole it. You need to register it in Tucson, today." "Tucson's far," she pointed out. "You'll get there," he said. "We're being hunted," she reminded him. "I'm not asking you," he replied with honest hardness. "I'm handing it over. Sign here." He pulled out a crumpled sheet in a notary's hand. It already declared the transfer of rights to the Ojo de Ceniza to Nicolas and Rosa Duarte, represented by their mother, Rafaela. She read it standing still, every word described by the spring's breath. "And if you die?" she asked. "I already did once," he joked, and coughed blood into his smile. "Don't marry me to your guilt." "I can't scrub my past clean, but I can clean the water," he said. He signed. She signed. Nicolas put his name down with pride. Rosa drew a sun. Because she didn't know signatures yet, and Silas said, "That sun is a better seal than the judge's hawk." They shut the lid, covered it with false stones and a drawing in sand. When they came out into the open, they saw dust to the west. Baron and 4 more. "I gave you the paper," Silas said. "Now I give you my only instruction. Don't talk to the judge under his roof." "I don't talk under other people's roofs," she said. They rode until the sun hammered their shoulders. The wagon creaked, the mule strained, the horse sweated its salt. At midday, Tucson pulled itself up from the flat land in brick and wire, a miracle of dirty geometry. They went into the registry under the acid stare of the clerk. "I'm here to record water rights," Rafaela said. "The judge is in session," the man answered, pretending to neaten papers. "I don't need a judge to record what exists. You need a seal," he said. I have signatures. You need a seal, he repeated, savoring his little counterweight. Silas laid his arm on the counter. Put yours on it, Morrow. The clerk's name was Morrow, the same Morrow listed in the hidden ledger. He flushed and tensed. I don't stamp anything without orders, he said. Then you can sell candles for funerals when the town finds out, Rafaela said clearly. I petition for an on-site inspection. What? An inspection on the ground, she repeated, remembering how her father had spoken to magistrates under the old regime, when they still listened. The law allows the sheriff to verify in person. Around here, I speak the law, a voice from the back said. Caleb Barron appeared in an immaculate coat and a smile with no water in it. Mrs. Duarte, he greeted her, as if they shared memories of dances. You owe me a night cut short. I owe you a burial if you insist, she answered. You've brought a half-dead drifter. Poor Reed, always so inclined to choose the wrong friends. The water isn't yours, she said. Everything that runs through my fences belongs to me, he replied. The eye runs beneath your fences, she said. Poetic, he smiled, looking at the paper, reading the signatures and feigning surprise. Ah, children as owners? How touching. They're citizens, she said. They're poor, he corrected, with poisoned kindness. Poverty doesn't hold keys. I forge them, she answered. Gentlemen, another voice cut in. The sheriff, a ruddy man with a grand mustache, J. Otis Morrow, the clerk's brother, appeared fanning himself with his hat. Let's not turn this into a circus. I request an on-site inspection now, Sheriff, she insisted. On what basis? He asked. On integrity, she said. Big word. Barron sighed. Perhaps the lady doesn't understand that integrity here is guaranteed by my office. I understand, she cut in, that you're afraid of the sun. Do the inspection, Sheriff. I don't have time, Morrow replied, eyeing Rosa's bare feet as if they were an argument. Tomorrow, if the judge so wishes. He said now, Silas put in, standing upright, exhausted but vertical. Or your name turns up where it shouldn't. Are you threatening me, Reed? Barron asked in a velvet voice. Silas didn't answer with words. He set the ledger, wrapped in a rag, on the counter. Morrow swallowed hard. He did the math as fast as impatient men do. On-site inspection, he said at last. Now. Barron held on to his smile and summoned Clay with his eyes. We'll have some fun, he said. They set out in a cold little procession toward the eye. The desert blazed white and the short shadows looked like mistakes. On the way, Esme Quinn, the saloon keeper, watched them ride past from her doorway and touched Nantan's arm. Go, she said. The boy dipped his head and loped off behind the column like a human coyote. Rafaela didn't see him, but she could feel him nearby, the way you recognize a familiar scent without naming it. They reached the forked mesquite. The shepherd's star was already asleep. Show us your eye, Barron sang. We might cry. Rafaela felt the weight of every gaze. She shut her eyes a heartbeat. Eye, song, compass, hill. Steps, she opened them. Nicolas, here, he said. Hold this. Nicolas held the compass steady. Rosa, present. Count with me. She walked 7 steps toward where the imaginary dawn shadow would have fallen. 3 to the brow, 1 to the channel. She marked the ground with her heel and dug. The earth resisted, hardened by years. Nothing, Morrow said, with premature relief. Keep digging, Clay drawled, entertained. Rafaela kept going. Sweat ran down her spine. Silas hobbled closer. Here, he indicated, a handbreadth to the left. The flood always shifts things. They both dug. Her knife struck wood. Aha, Morrow said, and his voice sounded genuine for the first time. They hauled the lid up. Air rose with the scent of living stone. Barron smiled calmly. How curious, he said. It's an eye, Rosa declared, with bell-like solemnity. It's a hole, Barron corrected her. With stolen water, Reed hid what's mine. What's ours, Rafaela said, clean and level. My father marked this point. Your father marked for men in borrowed hats, Barron said. My father put this marker down, she answered. She climbed onto the edge of the shaft and felt along beneath the lid. There was a tiny hole pretending to be a flaw. She slid her little finger in and felt nothing. She closed her eyes, inhaled wood and thyme, and heard her father's voice. Under the lip, never on top. She hooked her nail under the lower edge and felt thin metal. She tugged. A coin dropped out. An old reel stamped 1848. Before your jurisdiction, Judge, she said softly. Baron barely blinked. You can bury coins wherever you like, he said. Not lilies in stone, she answered, showing the green rim of lichens clinging to the cedar. This hasn't seen sunlight in years. I'm not impressed by lichens, he smiled, turning to the sheriff. Without my seal, there's no record. The on-site inspection is itself a record, Morrow muttered, unsure. You draft the record, his brother cut him off. With your own hands. My hands don't belong to you, the sheriff said, and that tiny defiance was all the courage of a man who preferred tickets to bullets. Clay already had his gun half out. Silas lifted the carbine. Rafaela stepped one pace between them. Put them down, she said. They're taking what's mine, Baron said without raising his voice. If I can't win with ink, I'll win with lead. Not in front of the town, a new voice said. Esme Quinn appeared on horseback with 6 men behind her, miners with rope-burned hands, and Nanton with a short bow. We're here for the show, Esme smiled. We like eyes. Get lost, Clay spat. Esme laughed, sharp as glass. I didn't come to laugh. I came to watch men turn into men. This has nothing to do with you, Baron hissed. Water splashes everyone, Nanton answered in halting Spanish. The idea perfect, even if the grammar wasn't. The air grew so tight any word could have shattered it. In the end, it was a bird that did. A startled crow shot out, spooked by the glint of the compass, and Clay fired by reflex. The bullet hit Silas in the shoulder and spun him half around. Rafaela didn't think. She shoved Nicolas to the ground, rolled, grabbed Clay's fallen gun in the instant the recoil shook it loose, and came up with the weapon in her hand. Enough. No, Baron said, and drew calmly. The years had turned the movement into a kind of prayer. He fired at the saloon keeper, the way men shoot at whatever stirs people up. Nanton loosed an arrow that buried itself in the wood of Clay's gunstock, spoiling the second shot. Esme didn't fall. She ducked behind her horse. Rafaela took aim at Baron's wrist and squeezed. The bullet shattered his watch and his hand, and the judge let out a small, ugly shriek. Clay, he yelled, more out of habit than strategy. Clay answered like ice, with a shot that grazed Nicolas's ear. Son, she cried, and that word lit a new fire. Without looking, she raised the compass, tilted it to catch the brutal sun, and flashed it straight into Clay's eyes. He flinched, cursed, and covered his face for a second. In that second, Silas, bleeding hard, shot him in the boot. Clay stumbled, half fell, got up in a rage. You're going to kill me over a puddle, he panted, advancing, his shadow swallowing his own face. Over my children, she said, and shot him in the shoulder where she had already cut him with the knife. His gun tumbled to the dirt. Baron looked for cover in vain. The sheriff aimed at him for the first time in his life. Lower your weapon, Judge, he said out of habit, but his voice carried a decision that was not habit. Lower it now. Baron did not. And then another sound joined them, deep and new. Water. Nanton, unnoticed, had found a small iron lever inside the box. Silas had whispered, "Turn it." So he turned it. Water rose through a buried channel that opened into the dry bed. The eye, freed, spat a first gush and then a steady thread. The current cut the ground with polite finality, placing men on one side and the other, soaking fine boots and carrying dust with the force of conviction. Esme laughed. Purely out of nerves. Look at it. It's writing. The water was writing a line that needed no ink. Baron backed away, slipped in the mud, fell on his own broken watch, and left a red smear in the sand. It's over, Rafaela said without shouting. Sheriff, take note. The men holstered their guns with that old obedience to whoever sounds like the earth itself is listening. The sheriff inhaled slowly. "So noted," he said, and back at the office his brother felt a chill he didn't yet know how to name. Silas doubled over beside the edge. He was bleeding badly. "Don't you dare die." Rafaela ordered him without tenderness, because tenderness forgives, and she wasn't ready to forgive. "I don't have permission," he joked through clenched teeth. Back to the mission, she decided. Now. They carried him back on planks and arms. Esme ripped her petticoat for bandages. Nanton kept Gawkers outside with his stone-hard stare. "It hurts," Silas admitted between his teeth. "That's yours," she said. "And the rest?" "The rest will split," she said. "You'll do what I promised," he insisted. "I'll do what's right," she answered. "I don't want some statue saving me," he blurted suddenly, and the lines surprised her, because he didn't sound like a rich man whining, but like a man who knew his account would never truly balance. "If I live, I'll testify myself." "You'll live," she decreed. She worked with needle and thread, with exact pressure and with a murmured chant that wasn't a prayer but arithmetic, each stitch a number that steadied her own breathing. "Mama," Nicholas said from the door, "the town's outside. Let them drink from the eye," she ordered without turning. "No fighting. Nantan will watch the turns. Esme, send barrels." "Yes, ma'am," the saloon keeper answered with a smile that honored a title Rafaela had earned. At dusk, the judge came back, hand bandaged and pride melted like wax, with 2 guards. "I'm arresting Reed for theft," he announced. "Arrest your mirror," Esme shot back. "I'm arresting Mrs. Duarte for contempt," he said. "Arrest your thirst," Nantan added, making the miners laugh deep, not in mockery, but to pull the sting out of the threat. The sheriff planted himself between them all. "Judge, you can't," he said. "I can't? We have the record and we have the town," the sheriff replied. Barron measured his men. He measured water. He measured faces. Nothing favored him. He gave a small bow, like an actor who hates to leave the stage. "We'll see each other in court," he promised. "Not here," Rafaela said. "In Santa Cruz. Neutral ground. They have old judges there," he smiled. "I like old things." "So do I," she said. "Old laws, for example." They left. The sun broke apart into orange. Night brought mosquitoes and guitars. Exhausted, Rafaela sank onto a stool. Silas slept, his breathing harsh but persistent. Rosa sat at the foot of the pallet, drawing circles in the dust. Nicholas carried barrels back and forth, as if his arm had grown longer. For the first time in years, the yard smelled of living water. "Are you staying?" Esme asked. "I'm staying," Rafaela said, not entirely sure whether she meant the night or a fate. The trial in Santa Cruz was brief and rough. Barron brought papers with fresh seals. She brought a worn compass, a repeated song, and an old coin. Silas, arm in a sling, sat by her side. "Your Honor," he said, "I did sign. I stole the water children were drinking, because I was afraid other men with hats would get it. I tried to play God. Today, I'm giving it back." The old judge, with hair like damp chalk, studied him for a long moment. Then he looked at the barefoot widow and the children who didn't know what to do with their hands. "Water belongs to those who need it, and to those who bring it to light," he finally pronounced, whether quoting or inventing a line that sounded like scripture. "The Ojo de Ceniza is hereby recorded in the names of the minor children Duarte. A right-of-way and shared irrigation are created." "Shared?" Barron choked. "Since when does this territory speak of things shared?" "Since it sings louder than the seals," the judge said, dry as dust. Outside, Clay braced his back against the wall, his eyes sunken. "I failed you," he told the judge. "You failed yourself," Barron replied with light contempt, and walked away without looking at him. That abandonment snapped something bullets had not. Clay straightened and looked at Rafaela. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said. "I'm not selling any," she replied. "I owe you a shoulder," he tried. "A joke with no shine." "You owe yourself a life," she answered. He nodded as if he'd just received a verdict, took off his hat, and headed west, a man who didn't know where to go if no one called him to kill. They went back to the valley with the registered paper. People had already set up turns for the water. Esme kept a notebook. Nantan measured with his eyes. The sheriff, humbled and relieved, watched to make sure nobody jumped the line. Thinner now, Silas walked to the eye and touched the stone with 2 fingers. "I can go," he said. "Where?" she asked. "To settle accounts. To look for the people I left with no pasture," he answered. "They can look for you," she said. "I don't want them coming here," he said. "They won't. There are eyes here," she said, and wasn't talking about the spring. Silas pulled out another paper. "I drafted this last night." "Don't make me read," she said. "It's a deed of trust," he said. "Don't talk Latin to me," she answered. "Your girl will sign it when she learns how," he smiled toward Rosa. "It's a fund to maintain the eye and its channels. No selling, no mortgaging." "And you?" she asked. "I can't touch it," he said, sounding relieved. "Looking for redemption?" she asked him. "Looking to obey someone better than me," he answered. "Obey the water," she said. "And you," he added, with a humor that begged absolution without naming it. She studied him for a long time. "Don't try to buy me," she said. "I'm not buying you," he answered quietly, without a trace of old power. "I'll walk beside you if you let me." "I don't need a man at my side to walk," she said. "I know," he replied. "That's why I'm asking." "Stay until the rains," she conceded. "Then we'll see." "We'll see," he echoed, as if that word were a kind of permission. Life did not turn sweet. There were arguments over barrels. There were shoves. Someone tried to sell their turn. Rafaela folded her arms, planted herself, and said no with just the right weight. The town understood there was a new kind of law that didn't hang in an office. Barron appealed. He lost again. He sold livestock and left quietly, his hands still stiff, bound for a territory where people still mistook paper for power. Sheriff Morrow discovered that sleeping without nightmares cost less than whiskey, and spent the savings on decent boots for his wife. His brother learned to stamp what needed stamping. One afternoon, Clay came back. His beard had grown. His eyes were much less sharp. "I've got work driving mules," he said from the edge of the yard. "If you need hands." "We've got plenty of hands," Nicholas, now a deep-voiced teenager, said. "Someone has to teach the boys to shoot without killing," Esme put in, having taken in orphans as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Stay," Rafaela decided, seeing in him the clean shadow that appears when a man manages to shake off the dirty one. "But nobody carries a loaded gun here unless there's danger." "Yes, ma'am," he said, and his yes sounded like relief. One fierce sunny day, Rosa fell into the irrigation ditch. The water pushed her along gently. Silas dove in without thinking and pulled her out with the arm that still hurt. She looked at his hair, stuck to his forehead, and the thin trickle of blood where the old wound sometimes wept, and told him, "You're an idiot." "I know," he said. "A useful idiot," she added. "I'll take it," he answered. The night the first big rain came, drums on the tin roof and crackles in the soil, Rafaela stepped into the yard and let the drops hit her face. Let them wash years off her skin. Silas stood beside her. "When I met you, I was about to die," he said. "I kept you alive out of pure stubbornness," she answered. "And now I'm leaving," he said. She didn't answer. She walked over to the forked mesquite and laid her hand on the bark. "You're going," she said at last. "Yes. Will you come back?" "If you call me," he said. "I won't call you," she replied. "Then if the water needs me," he tried. "Water doesn't talk," she said. "You do." "No, Silas," she cut in with dry gentleness. "I listen." He nodded, accepting that he had reached a door you don't step through without invitation. The next morning, he mounted up and rode east without ceremony. He left no promises, just a notebook, names of widows, farmhands, and small ranchers he owed. Each name had a number and a brief note about where to find them. Rafaela put it away in the same hollow where she had once hidden the dirty ledger of payoffs. The hollow now smelled of corn. At noon, she and Nicolas lifted the stone marking the first boundary her father had set, the one the flood had knocked loose, and put it back where the song said it belonged. "Like this?" he asked, hands dirty and eyes new. Like this, she said, and straightened it with the heel of her boot, the way you fix a child's hair before showing him to the world. Rosa clapped her wet hands. Nantan watched from the side, smiled a little. Enough. Esme wrote marker stone in her notebook in clear letters. The spring below didn't know about papers or destinies. It rose because someone had decided to let it. Rafaela wiped her hands on her rebozo, drew a deep breath, and let her chest ache just as much as it needed to. Mama, Rosa said, the water sounds like a heartbeat. That's the world, Rafaela answered, plain. On the ridge, a coyote howled. It didn't say anything about omens, only about this moment. For the first time in years, the valley understood there was a line that wasn't a fence, but a promise. And when night swallowed the last red streak, the eye kept speaking underground, and the widow, who was no longer only a widow or only poor or only a victim, rested her forehead against the warm stone of the marker and closed her eyes for just a second to listen for any sign that the water was calling her. It wasn't. It was walking beside her, and that was enough.